All right, welcome to episode 5 of the All American Hoops podcast. I'm Chris Driscoll, and I was about to say Happy New Year because this is the first podcast since the New Year. However, it has been a couple weeks, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily an appropriate time to say that. But I'm recording on January 19th, Friday. Snow day outside, so I'm recording during the day. Luckily, we had school off today. But yeah, I'm super excited to get this episode of this podcast started up because this is actually going to be the first podcast that is actually uploaded onto the primetimesportstalk.com website. Luckily, our editors did approve this podcast being uploaded to the website, so I'm super thankful for them. I've been writing for them for just about a year now. January 22nd was actually the first article was when my first article was submitted. So yeah, just about a year that I've been writing articles for them, and now I'm super excited to also be doing this podcast for them as well. Or I shouldn't even say that. Like they're uploading the podcast for me actually. So yeah, I'm super thankful for them and super thankful for the opportunity. But yeah, the last podcast that I recorded was the emergency podcast with my brother Matt and John from JFK, the Super Knicks fan. We talked about the trade of OG Anunoby to the Knicks in return for Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett. As of now, it's working out really well for the Knicks. I think I saw a stat earlier, or it was either earlier today or yesterday. I think it said that in like the first 10 games of OG Anunoby, he has like the highest plus minus of all time with his new team, which is fantastic. And yeah, even though a lot of Knick fans weren't really happy with it, and I'm not saying that he's proven them wrong yet because it's so early. But if he does well enough for them, yeah, like it'll definitely be a trade that worked out for them in the end. But we'll just have to see about that. But one more trade went down, and one more big trade, I should say. That is Pascal Siakam from the Raptors was traded to the Indiana Pacers for Bruce Brown, a couple of other salary fillers and picks. So, and yeah, we have yet to see anything come out of that trade yet. But however, I think it is a win-win from both sides. Pascal Siakam is currently on an expiring deal, and the Raptors. I for one think they should have started to blow it up for a little bit now. But it seems like they just started to click that button after the OG trade, and now they did it with Siakam as well. So they're getting some solid assets in return. The Raptors got 3 picks out of Pascal Siakam, which is all you could ask for. I, for one, wouldn't give up that many picks for him. I know I talk a lot about the Celtics on this podcast, but the fact of the matter is, I'm pretty sure the Celtics only gave up 2 first-round picks for Drew Holiday, and they did that, and I don't think they gave up. I'll have to double check, but I think they only gave up. They only give up, like, I think it was 1 first-round pick and a couple other seconds for Kristaps Porzingis. So, and I don't even know if Siakam's better than either of those 2 players as of now. He's still a great player. But yeah, I think it just goes to show you how great of a GM that Brad Stevens is. But yeah, I know that John from JFK called me out for connecting a little too much to the Celtics there, so I'll back off from that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The Pacers, as of now, are, hang on, I have it written down somewhere. The Pacers are 7th in the East, but however, that gap between 4 and like 8 or 9 is like razor thin. So usually I would say that the Pacers didn't really raise their ceiling that much. I said the same thing with the Knicks, but I thought about it more. And I'm just assuming that the conference finals is going to be between the Celtics, the Bucks, or the Sixers. But that changes every year because, first of all, injuries happen. Like you saw the Bucks last year, they're the first seed, they lost in the first round. Same thing happened with the Sixers. Embiid seems to something's wrong with them every year. And even though the Celtics seem to make the conference finals every year with Tatum and Brown healthy, they've been to back-to-back Game 7s in the semifinals. So they're by no means a lock either. Even though I think they're the best team in the league by far, or I shouldn't say by far, but like very they hold a very firm position as of now. But yeah, so none of those teams are really locks to make the conference finals, even though some of them should be. So, like the Miami Heat find a way to squeeze in. It feels like they've found a way to squeeze in a couple of years in a row now. Or not in a row, but 2 of the past 3 years they made it when they shouldn't have. then yeah, so teams fall apart. So I think the Pacers' ceiling is conference finals. I don't think they can beat the Celtics, the Sixers, or the Bucks in a series. Could be wrong though. I don't know if they can beat them in a late playoff series because of their inexperience. But that being said, they did just bring in some championship DNA in Pascal Siakam. He fits really well with them. He moves. They move really fast, and then his play style really is going to really adjust well to that. So yeah, the Pacers are a good team. I think they just turned into a very good team though. Their floor is first round exit still, but however, their ceiling I think is conference finals. So they're going to be a very, very fun team to watch, and I'm excited to do some film on them. But anyway, yeah, so that's it for the trade. But basically, the main focus of this episode is going to be on the All Star game. So tomorrow, as in Saturday the 28th, is going to be the last day of the All Star voting, and I always find it fascinating because people like to complain about fan voting, and even though I have my fair shares of criticism as well, I think it's very, very important to have it because let's be honest, fans really don't get a ton out of the NBA. You know, tickets are very, very expensive. It's hard to get to games sometimes. Not a lot of people live really close to the stadiums to get there. So the fact that they have some sort of say in who gets this and who gets to start the All Star game is pretty cool. And it's not necessarily either that they get the final say in it. Their votes consist of 50% of the votes. So it's interesting to say the least. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, the way the NBA All Stars are selected is fans votes, players votes, and the media votes. So the total fan vote consists of 50%. So they rank the players based on the amount of votes they get. So for example, say LeBron got the most amount of votes in the front court, which looks like he's going to get. He would get 1 point. Then say Durant's number 2. I don't think he is number 2, but then he would get 2 points. So and then after that, they do it based on the players' votes. So if LeBron won the most amount of votes by the players, he would get another point as well. And then the media votes as well. So then they like combine the totals. Like I said, fans get 50% of the votes, so they have more of a say in it. And after that is when they rank the players 1, 2, 3, dot dot dot. So so that's how that works. But anyway, yesterday the NBA released the final vote return. So I have the top 5 down right here. So for the one more thing I forgot to mention. So it's and there's 2 categories to vote from. It's you're voting from the guards and the front court for each conference. So you have 4 selections to vote from. So for the West guards, the order is from first to fifth. So Luka, Steph, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Then for the front court, we have LeBron, Jokic, KD, AD, and Kawhi. And then for the East guards, we have Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, and then Jalen Brunson is in 6th. And then for the front court East, we have Giannis, Embiid, Tatum, Butler, and Jaylen Brown. So I don't think there's too many surprises here. Maybe Kyrie in 5th for the West is a little surprising. But that being said, I was looking up the stats the other day for when I was deciding my starters, and he really isn't that far from making the All-Star game at all. But that'll be a discussion that we have later. But anyway, I've been monitoring my All-Star who I would pick for the All-Star game. But one more thing I wanted to mention, although I do support fan voting, one thing that I don't like about it is how there's such a wide window of voting that when there could be there could be a player who's like so red hot in the beginning of voting, because I think that's when most voters vote. I don't have anything to back that up on that, but I feel like more people are energized towards the beginning of voting. So there could be a player who's like red hot for 5-6 games, and they totally cool off after that, but then they still get the most amount of votes. Because another reason why I think that more fans are energized towards the beginning is that they vote. They see the voting returns and say, "Oh my guy's not going to win." So that's one of the flaws, but it is what it is there. But lost my train of thought there. But oh yeah, so yeah, but the way that I've been monitoring it, some things have been changing with the All-Star voting and with the stats and everything. But here's the way that I did it based on so even though I do watch a lot of games, I am also very big on numbers. So I did use a lot of advanced stats to determine who I think should get in. So I used a combination of box plus minus, win shares, value over replacement player, player efficiency rating, and then to like sprinkle in scoring, because All-Star with All-Star games there's gonna be a lot of scoring. So I factored that in as well. But I basically just broke them off into all the categories, and then I didn't do it solely based on that, but it was the central point of my arguments. But yeah, I'll just go through each position, or each of the two positions for each conference, and then explain to you my picks, and also who I considered as well. So I'll start off by talking about the Eastern Conference guards. This was one of the harder ones to determine because there was just so much to break down. So I mentioned the top 5 for each one. I mentioned the top 6 for the Eastern Conference guards, but there's really 7 that I considered. And keep in mind, there is not 7 guards. There's not a spot for 7 guards unless someone gets hurt, which is actually a very good chance that happens. But the 7 guys that I considered are Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Derek White, Damian Lillard, and Trae Young. And before anyone gets on me for Derek White, even though he had that slump, he's still one of the most impactful players in the league on the best team in the league. So he absolutely deserved consideration. And even if you want to say he doesn't deserve to start for the All-Star game, that's fine. It's not a lock yet, but I'm very, very close to get to putting him in, to starting him. No, it's not starting, to putting him in my spot for the All-Star game. So anyway, so the one I would say lock is probably Tyrese Halliburton. He has been injured the past couple games. He has missed 8 games, but has played 33. So I don't think you can discount him for it so much. Like I think the sample size for him is big enough. Out of all the Eastern Conference guards, he was either first or second in the 4 advanced stats that I mentioned, in box plus minus, value over replacement, win shares, and player efficiency rating. Didn't place in the top 5 or 6 for points per game, but it's his playmaking more than anything that gets above there. But on a per game basis, Tyrese Halliburton has been the best guard in the East, and I don't think that's really up for discussion either. But if you wanna boot him off because he's injured and hasn't played enough games, that's fine. I did factor in games played just a little bit, but if you played enough games, I would say that probably like 30. If you played 30 games out of like the 40 something games, I think that's enough. So he would have just missed the cut. The next guy is Donovan Mitchell. He has played 30 games on the dot, but again, on a per game basis, he has probably been second, or if he hasn't been the first, he's been the second or third best guard in the East. So he he's been he wasn't first, or I think out of all the advanced stats, I think the only one that he wasn't in the top in first or second in was in win shares, but again, that's also usually a longevity stat. So and I do believe that he was first or second in point, or not, I know that he's first or second in points per game as well for the East. So and one more thing with Mitchell is that the Cavs are 9.4 points per 100 possessions better with Mitchell on the courts than off the court. So he is fantastic. And then after that, the next one who I think has the best argument besides Halliburton and Mitchell is Jalen Brunson. He's been fantastic for them all season long. 40 games played. He's only missed 2 games. And he's been hands down their best player, scoring a ton. And also he's up to his playmaking a bit as well. He's pretty bad on defense, but I don't think that's too much of a negative on the team. But I guess his one negative is that compared to the other All-Stars, his impact isn't as big. The Knicks are only 2.7 points per 100 possessions better with him on the court than off the courts. So yeah, he's been fantastic all year long, and I think he will end up starting the All-Star game because he's been the most available out of everyone on the list. Out of all the ones I'm considered, he's the only one that's played 40 games so far. But yeah, he'll be an interesting. Yeah, he has an interesting case for sure. But to mention the other ones, I'll talk about the other ones quickly. I think the top 3 that I mentioned are the top 3 that deserve it the most. But There's a chance that Mitchell and Halliburton don't start because the game's played. But yeah, the ones that I'm going to mention after this have a chance as well. So one of them is Tyrese Maxey. So he has the Sixers led to be he is not the leader in the team, but however he has played a lot of games without Joel Embiid. So the Sixers are currently third in the East. They are 7.9 points per 100 possessions better with him on than off. And that number does take a bit of a dip when Joel Embiid is off the floor. But that being said, when you have the MVP off the floor, of course your team is going to get worse. But yeah, Maxey, well, he was definitely better in the beginning of the year than the past couple weeks, but he still put together an all-star season. I wouldn't say he's all NBA anymore, but I still see the potential there. I think that he will improve more as the year goes on, and hopefully, if Embiid stays healthy, then they'll improve even more. But yeah, Maxey's been fantastic this year as well. And then the last three are the three that I don't think should be considered for starting, but or I should say are not in the top four for starting. I guess they should all be considered. But the last three I mentioned: Derek White, Trae Young, and Damian Lillard. And keep in mind, at least one of these guys won't make the first cut for the All-Star game if Halliburton makes the first cut, which I think he will. And if you were to ask me, I think that one that shouldn't make it is actually Trae Young. He's hands down the worst defender here, and he's so bad of a defender. He's debatably the best offensive player here, but the Hawks are less than they're near dead even with his impact on the floor than off the floor. He hasn't been that impactful this year, but yeah, so I don't think he has that great of a case. But yeah, White has a case, Dame has a case. Yeah, we'll talk more about that once John and Matt are on the show next week when we talk about the All-Star reserves. But yeah, my picks for the Eastern Conference guards are Tyrese Halliburton and Donovan Mitchell, with Jalen Brunson slightly behind Donovan Mitchell and might get the edge over Mitchell because of games played. But yeah. So those are so Halliburton and Mitchell are my picks for Eastern Conference guards. We get to the Eastern Conference front court now. I won't spend as much time as I did on the guards because I think they're fairly obvious. Or two out of the three are 100% obvious. The third one is just kind of obvious, not as obvious though. Actually, now that I said that out loud, I think it's only one that's really, really obvious, and that's Giannis is really the only one that's 100% obvious. He's played 39 games, only missed 3. His team is second in the East. They are 9.1 points. He has a 9.1 on off. They're 9.1 points per 100 possessions better with him on than off. Top 3 defender in the league, one of the best offensive players in the league as well. And it's gotten to the point where Giannis is like almost kind of like LeBron was in the early 2010s, where, oh yeah, he's putting together this MVP season, but however, everyone's expecting that at this point. So yeah, that just shows you greatness, because as much as people like to talk about Embiid and Shea and all those guys, it feels like Giannis is still, everyone knows that he's top 3 in the league, but no one really talks about him anymore. But yeah, he's a lock to be an all-star starter. The next lock, I would say, is probably Joel Embiid. And it's pretty easy to say, oh, why isn't he 100% lock? And it's obvious. He's just missed 10 games. And yeah, I would still, in a heartbeat, take him to be that second Eastern Conference front court starter. But I understand why people would want to take him off. He has a 9 on off with the Sixers. They're third in the East. Both Giannis and Embiid finished first and second in the 4 advanced stats and points per game compared to the other Eastern Conference front court guys. So yeah, those 2 guys are the easy picks for Eastern Conference front court. But then there's one more, and I would say that's Jason Tatum. And I don't think that's, and usually I like to listen to other people's opinions, but I would say you really don't know what you're talking about if you don't think that Jason Tatum is that third front court guy. I think he also led in almost all of the other advanced stats. I think the only one that he fell short behind in, I think it was value over replacement. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that he has such a great team around him. The Celtics are only 2.6 points better with him on the court than off the court. But that being said, their net rating overall is like 14.6, something absurd like that. So you really shouldn't be punished that much for having an amazing team around you, especially when you're making your team better as well. And come playoff time, he's going to have to be the guy to step up, and hopefully he will. He has done in the past. So, yeah, very easy pick there. The only other ones that I don't want to say considered, because I never considered certain the guys over them, but the guys that followed him after that, I guess, are Jared Allen, Kristaps Porzingis, uh, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, and Paulo Banchero is one of them too. But the first three are locks without a doubt, and the next ones I'll discuss a little more next week when we talk about the reserves. But yeah, so my Eastern Conference starters are Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and Jason Tatum. The front court much easier than the guards. But yeah, we'll go at West now, and the West is a bit opposite of what the East was, because the East, it was the guards that were hard and the front court that was very easy. The West, it's the guards that are easier, and then the front court that is much harder. So yeah, we'll talk about the guards again. This one will be very, very quick. So the two guards that I picked were Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Luka Doncic. So Steph Curry came in second in voting returns to the fans. That's not really so surprising at all. I think he's the second face of basketball besides LeBron. So you really can't get mad at that too much. But however, I do hope that the media and the players make up for the fans voting, because I do think that Shai and Luka have been head and shoulders above Steph this year. I still trust Steph in the playoffs far more than I trust the two of them. But this is based on strictly this year, and Luka and Shai are hands down the best two guards. I mentioned same thing with Embiid and Giannis did with the front courts. Shai and Luka led in all the advanced stats and points per game. And if we're talking about the impact numbers as well, the Thunder are 9 points better with Shai on the court than off the courts. The Mavs are, I think, 5.3 points points per 100 possessions better with Luka on the court than off the court. The Thunder are the second seed. The Mavs are the sixth seed in the West. Yeah, they've been head and shoulders above everyone else, and I don't think anybody else really has a good argument over them. When I did like the whole math and everything like that, the reserves is interesting to say the least. There's a couple contenders, just a few that came up on the list. So Steph is one of them. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Fred VanVleet. It will be interesting to say the least, and I think that the coaches who vote the reserves are going to be monitoring that pretty closely for the next couple weeks. But anywho, after that, yeah, so Shai and Luka, easy pick for that. But for the front courts, this one was probably the hardest, and I think it was debatably harder than picking the Eastern Conference guards as well, because it's probably the most stacked position as far as we go for ranking players in the league. But yeah, so those players are. So there's 7 guys that I considered, but really 6 guys that I think will be considered. So those 6 guys are Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, Domantas Sabonis, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and LeBron James. And I did just want to give my flowers to Larry Markkinen, because he has been phenomenal all year long. He's been like an all-star-esque player for the past 2 years now, and I didn't think he would be able to duplicate what he did last year to this year, but he absolutely has. So mad props to him. But anyway, there's only one lock really that I have here, and that's of course the 2-time MVP, the reigning Finals MVP, Nikola Jokic. He pretty much finished first in pretty much every advanced category, and he's also, and one thing I didn't realize, he's actually second in points per game amongst other Western Conference front courts, only behind Kevin Durant. And no one really sees him as a scorer, but I think he's a top 3 scorer in the league, because he's not a big volume scorer, but however, he does step up the volume come playoff time, and he hasn't really shown it a ton this year, but I think he's the most efficient scorer in the entire league. So it's pretty cool what we're seeing now, and how awesome and of a player Jokic is. He easily has a top 15 peak all time, creeping into the top 10, especially if he goes far in the playoffs again this year. But to talk about a couple of the impact stats, he's only missed one game so far this year, which is amazing when you're talking about the other All-Stars in the league. His on-off, by the way, 18.6. That is how insanely impactful he is. The Nuggets are the best team in the league when he's on the floor, and they're not a good team when he's off the floor. That's how big that gap is. I still think the Nuggets are the front runners to win the West, but his role players are gonna have to step it up for sure. But yeah, he's easily a lock. After that is when it got tough. I had to do some process of elimination there. I do know that I wasn't going to pick both LeBron and AD to start because the Lakers are currently 10th in the West. I don't think there's really any justification to start two players in the All-Star game when their team's 10th in the West. It happened more than a couple years ago. I think it was in 2018 where both AD and Boogie Cousins started. I think that was a mistake, and hopefully the league recognizes that. But I don't think that both LeBron or AD should start. So I'm going to have to cut one of them. And this isn't going to happen. I think LeBron's going to win the fan vote, which if you win the fan vote, you're like an automatic lock to get in. But I don't think LeBron should start the All-Star game. I think it should be AD. He is a little better defensively. I shouldn't say a little better defensively. I should say a little better impactfully. AD clears on defense, and he's been better. He's been a better scorer as well. So AD has been the better overall player this year, and I think he should be the one starting, not LeBron. But after that, another cut that I'm going to make is Domantas Sabonis. He's been great this year. He's a great playmaker and everything. But however, if we're talking about impacts, the Kings are a better team. Again, we can't use on-off for everything, but numbers wise, the Kings are a worse team with him on the floor than off the court than him on the floor. I think negative 3.8 points is his on-off. So, and I know we can't look at that for everything, but however, when we're talking about starting the All-Star game against the other best of the best, this is probably the most stacked All-Star position you can't start, especially under those circumstances. So the last spot would come down to Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. But now that I'm thinking about it more, I think that the gap between I think it's Jokic, then Kawhi, then there's a big drop off after that. I think the Kawhi's been the second best front court guy, and I don't think there's a close gap. But yeah, I'm taking Kawhi over KD pretty easily this year. The Clippers have been a top 3 team in the league ever since they traded for James Harden. They started off awful. I should say they started off awful like in the first few games after Harden came back, but they've been phenomenal since then. They are currently 4th in the West. And again, impact. The Clippers are 14 points better with Kawhi on the floor than off the floor. That is insane. And I really don't think there is an argument for any other player besides Jokic over Kawhi as far as it goes for starting. But yeah, but for my front court, I would go Jokic, I would go Kawhi, and I would go Anthony Davis. It's tough to go. It's between him and Kevin Durant, but I would say between overall two-way ability and more games played, I think AD has played 40 games. Kevin Durant has only played 33. So, yeah, it's a tight one, but I'm feeling pretty confident in it. But so yeah, my West starters are SGA, Luka, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, and Nikola Jokic. So yeah, those are my starters. I'm going to talk more about my reserves in my next podcast. I'll have my brothers John and Matt on to discuss that. But just to review, the East, we got Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis, and Joel Embiid versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, and Nikola Jokic. And the past few years, it's been a draft based on there's been a captain based on who has the most votes. The league did away with that this year. I'm very upset at that because I did have some ideas to have some guests come on the pod to do some drafts about that. Maybe we'll do that anyway, just for fun. But yeah, I think I don't even know who has the best team because the East because the West has some old stars, but the East also has some pretty great stars as well. But yeah, I'm really excited. the All-Star game is a little bit of a joke, but however, I do enjoy watching it. Hopefully they take it a little more seriously this year. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, thanks to Primetime Sports Talk for uploading my videos. I'm super pumped to be part of your team. This time in a bigger role. But anyway, before I close out, just a couple plugs. You can follow me on all my social media platforms at All American Hooper. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. You can read my articles at primetimesportstalk.com. It'll probably be under the same column as my articles. But thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Take care.